Welcome back to the Let's Talk Socialization podcast.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm your host, Ian Kahinde, and right here with me, I have a very exciting guest for you. Emmy Award-winning multidisciplinary artist, Treble NLS. Tell him what's up, bro.
What's poppin'? How y'all feel, man?
Hey, I'm really excited to get into this interview because
Super
we
same.
were talking over sushi not long ago, and I know you got a lot of story to tell.
Yes, indeed.
But let's just get right into it. Tell me about your upbringing.
All right, so I am Treble NLS. I am from Pittsburgh, PA. I grew up in Homewood, lived in multiple areas of the city, started writing poetry when I was 9, started performing when I was 15, but also teaching when I was 15. And I used to work for an organization called Crunk Movement, Center of Life's Crunk Movement. I worked there from 15 to like 19, then transitioned to MC coach when I was like 21. And that was honestly my first job. It's cool to be able to say that my first real job was with music. You feel me? Yeah.
You want to tell me more about the Crunk Movement?
So the Crunk Movement was a performing arts program for young people like myself at the time. I remember I saw a paper at my high school. I went to Brashear High School, and I remember they were having auditions, and they were asking for rappers, they were asking for DJs, dancers, graffiti artists, and anyone who was good with like a camera at the time. Pretty much like the 5 elements of hip hop. And at the time, I was like, "Yo, I be rapping. Let me see what I could get into." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And pulled up to the audition. It was cool. I got in, and we were kind of just like, they set us up with performances around the city. We were performing in schools during the school year, and then during the summer we had a summer program where we were literally performing every week. So we had to have a performance ready by Thursday. We'd come in Monday, we'd write our songs on Monday, finish writing on Tuesday, and then by the end of Tuesday we're like beginning the rehearsal process. Wednesday is all day rehearsal. Thursdays before the shows we'd rehearse, make sure that we have the set list mapped out. And then during lunch we'd go and get, like fitted for the show and stuff like that. And then I'd say around like 6:30 the show starts, and we had to make sure that each show every Thursday was better than the last one, because Pastor Tim Smith, his saying was, your next thing is your best thing. So every time we hit the stage, we had to make sure that that show was better than what we did before, and that it just kept getting better. That's honestly what inspired the start of NLS. NLS Ron is who started NLS, and he was inspired by the words of PT when he said, your next thing is your best thing. So he's like, yo, like, we're on next level shit. You feel me? From here on out.
That sounds like a lot of work for a youngin.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like with balancing all the other things going on in your life?
It was intense. I won't lie. Usually when I was doing crunk, it was during the summer, it was like one of the only things that I had going on. I tried to make sure that I prioritized my hours there. But it was definitely intense, especially for me, because after my first year, I got promoted, and I was an MC coach at like, I was an MC coach and student at like 17. So I was, not only teaching people how to rap and stuff like that, but I would then go and have to rap myself. You feel me? So I would have to, they'd send me the beats. I'd write to the beats on my lunch break or at home or on my own time, or while the students that I was teaching was writing their, we'd be writing at the same time. I'd have my headphones on. They'd be listening to their stuff out loud, and we're just all writing. And then I'd rehearse in my mom's basement. My mom's basement is where a lot of magic happened at that time. We would just go, me and my homie Ron would go down there and just rehearse, you know what I'm saying? And just go over our verses, write our verses. And I think that intensity was needed because it kind of like, it polished me, you know what I'm saying? It made me a really dope performer. It made me a really dope MC. I was able to freestyle. Like, I had a mentor who would take me to the orchestra and had me just freestyle to the music while we were sitting there. And I'm like, you want me to freestyle right now?
I see you with these orchestral beats,
You know what
man.
I'm saying? So like that kind of taught me how to improvise. Like, because when you're performing, if you mess up, as long as the audience doesn't know that you messed up, it doesn't really matter. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's where like freestyle comes in, and it comes in handy, because if I'm performing a song that people haven't heard before and I mess up, but I start freestyling,
They don't know it
they
wasn't
don't
meant to
know.
be in the first
You
place.
feel me?
Yeah.
Real. I mean, this is supposed to be clean, right?
Yeah.
My bad.
Hey, we good, man.
You
We
know what I'm
good. We
saying?
good. We good. We good. We good. But something that we were talking about earlier is how you are, what is it, Reiki?
Yeah,
You're
Reiki practitioner.
Reiki certified. You
Hmm.
want to tell me about how you got into that and what it currently does for you?
Yeah, so Reiki is something that came later in my healing journey, right? It all
Mm.
started in 2017 when I had a really bad run-in with my depression. Um, I was in and out of the mental hospital, and the last time I went to the mental hospital, I was like, something's got to give. You feel me? I got to start making changes to my mental health. And when I got out of the hospital, that's when because they wouldn't let me leave without a plan of action, right?
Yeah.
So my plan of action, I had to go to therapy. I had to attend group therapy sessions. I had to change my environment to an environment that felt more safe.
Mm-hmm.
I had to make sure that I had people that I can call when I'm in a crisis, and numbers that I could call, like Resolve, or even like if it's really bad, 911. Um, but then I remember I was surfing YouTube for like self help videos and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the videos that came up was this clip of an episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Yeah,
where
we
Aang
love
was clearing
Aang.
the chakras. You know what
We
I'm
love
saying?
Aang.
Facts. So that's when I was like, wait a minute, like the chakras are real. Like you can actually use those to heal yourself. You know what I'm saying? And they have real world implications in the way that we interact with ourselves, but also with the way that we interact with the world. It's all energy. You know what I'm saying? So then I started to study the chakras a little bit deeper. And that's when I started to realize that like there's a holistic route to healing that, a lot of medical practitioners often leave out. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? So it's like it's more than just a physical thing. It's like we are human beings that exist on the physical, mental, emotional, and energetic plane. You know what I'm saying? And in order to really heal, we have to make sure that we're touching all four of those. So once I realized that everything kind of starts with energy, that's when I was like, okay, so as long as I am, aligning my energy with the life that I want to live, I should be cool. You know what I'm saying? And any physical ailment that I experience, any emotional or mental ailment I experience, I can usually, break that down to an energetic origin.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, I'm doing my self healing. I'm, going through my chakra experience, healing all of my chakras. And at some point in my journey, I meet a woman by the name of Lauren Nakamura. And we had met on a professional tip, but then we had, talked on a personal tip, and I learned that she was a Reiki practitioner. And I had heard about Reiki, but I never really like looked into it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So we had a conversation about what Reiki is, how helpful it could be. And she was actually in the process of starting her business, First Light Reiki, at the time. And I ended up being one of her first customers for First Light Reiki. And
Wow.
it was life changing. I was like, yo, this is amazing. Like it kind of felt like when I went to that first Reiki session, it felt like whatever was blocking my energy was being pulled up. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Kind of like if you were to imagine the chakras like drainage pipes, right?
Uh-huh.
What the Reiki ended up doing was unclogging my drainage pipes. Now, once they were unclogged, of course, it was up to me to clean up the debris, but the Reiki really helped to identify what healing I needed to do after the session. So we had done a couple of sessions after that. I would hit her up whenever I was going through like a transitional period in my life. I remember I did a Reiki session after my father passed, and that was, man, I needed that session so much. And then I got into Oracle, right?
Mm-hmm. You
I
mean like
started
the
to,
the readings?
yeah, I started. So I got my first deck from my girlfriend because a friend of ours had gifted her an Oracle deck. But when I touched this Oracle deck, bro, I kid you not, I started hearing music.
That's
It's like a
crazy.
whole landscape started to appear in my mind. And when I told my girl about it, she's like, I think this means that this deck was meant for you.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh shit. Cause like she was a tarot person, you know what I'm saying? She was
Mhm.
the one who would do the readings and stuff like that. I never thought that it would be me. You feel me? So I started doing readings and whatnot. I end up getting another deck after that one. And the second deck is what really started to get me to think about energy healing as a practice.
Mhm.
Because this one card would come up every time, and the meaning of the card would be like, it would always say something along the lines of, you are where you need to be energetically. And it will prompt me to think about doing energy healing practices like massage, um, Reiki, yoga, and like offering that to other people.
Mhm.
So with that in mind, I'm like, okay, maybe I could get into something like Reiki. But then the way the universe works, earlier this year, my good friend Lauren Nakamura ended up getting certified to be a Reiki master teacher.
That sounds very, very high up.
You know what I'm saying? So now she's able to attune others to offer Reiki themselves.
Mhm.
So I was like, that's perfect. So she opened up her first class and she ended up emailing me as like a early offer type tip. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, I'm on it. I'm in there. You feel me? So I went to the class. It was a 2-day class over a weekend. It was Saturday and Sunday. And I learned how to do Reiki, and the rest was history.
That's a beautiful story, man.
Yes, indeed.
So you got Reiki, you got the music career, but what else is going on in your life right now? What you up to?
That is a loaded question. That is a very loaded question. If you don't mind, could you specify it a little bit more?
I mean, the music, people relate to your music.
Mm-hmm.
The Reiki, you're helping people with their energies, helping
Mm-hmm.
them, as you said, clean their blockages.
Yeah.
What else do you do with the community?
Okay. Now that one I can answer easily. So of course I work for an organization called One Hood Media. We're a
Mm.
community-based organization here in Pittsburgh. Um, And one thing I love about working at One Hood is, one, I can be my authentic self
Mm.
completely. It's actually encouraged. Two, I actually get to live out my dream of like helping people. You know, I really enjoy helping people. That's something that I learned when I was 15. Because I went through a whole, and me and my brother were just talking about this yesterday. I went through a whole identity crisis when I was 15, where I realized that I get the same joy from helping people that I do from hurting people. And I
Mm.
had to figure out like, how do I balance that? You know what I'm saying? And I realized that like I want to lead with helping people. You feel me? And the hurting people part, that's something that'll only be used if I'm ever in a situation where I need to defend myself or someone else.
Mm.
But helping people is the main goal. And I get to help people with One Hood by giving them opportunities for performances. So like, you know, I grew up in the arts community. So now in the position that I'm in at One Hood, I get to offer opportunities to other artists that I came up with. You know what I'm saying? And up and coming artists like my brother, and connect them with an organization like One Hood that has so many resources to tap into. You feel me? Um, I also lead their diversion program, which is pretty much like, it started with, so we used to go into Schumann Juvenile Detention Center back
Mm.
when it was open. We would go for a week out of every month. And our aim was to give them the tools they needed to tell their own story. Because the ideology was, until the lion learns to write, the story will always glorify the hunter.
That's a bar.
You know what I'm saying? And we are an organization that stands firmly against white supremacy culture. And in order to do so, we have to equip the lion with the tools to tell their own story. You
Mm.
feel me? So that people don't think that, you know, the hunter is the one to be glorified in history. And so that, you know, they're not the ones controlling our narrative. It's like there's so much power in controlling your own narrative and telling the world who you are by yourself, especially with the tools that we have now. We have social media, we have music, we have art. You know what I'm saying? So now through the diversion program, I get to show people that like, you're running with the law isn't the end of your road.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? It's just a kink in your journey. You know what I'm saying? It's just a hurdle that you have to overcome. And I get to show people that like, you get to take the reins of your own life. You know what I'm saying? You get to write your own story. You get to be the hero in your own narrative. You feel me? It's all about just taking responsibility. I get to teach people that responsibility isn't a daunting process, but rather an empowering process. Because through responsibility, you have the ability to respond to the circumstances you can't control. You know what I'm saying? And with that ability, that means that in whatever way you respond, that's how you will shape your reality. That's how you will shape your life. And you're the one who gets to dictate all of that. You know what I'm saying? So that's a pretty dope thing that I get to do. Um, what else? So of course, through my, relationships that I built in the arts community, I get to do a lot of really cool things. Like I ended up building a relationship with City Theater because I ended up doing a score to a play through One Hood. So they came to us because they wanted the score to be made by community members.
Mm.
And I ended up having beats on deck. This was the first year I started producing, and I'm showing everyone these beats. And I ended up producing 80% of the soundtrack.
Wow.
Of course, I'm on some of those songs. The soundtrack is called Pipeline, and the play is called Pipeline as well. It was a play by Dominic Morrisseau about the school to prison pipeline.
Mm.
And so we got to kind of create music that helped the viewer kind of follow the story of a kid named Omari who's going through a lot of hardships at school, and he's headed down a road where a lot of black kids end up, where it's like you get in trouble enough times in school and now they're thinking about expelling you, and once you're expelled, that's on your record. And usually, like, what people don't know is the school system was designed to model the prison system,
Yeah.
and they want you to go one of two directions: either you're an employee or you are a prisoner. But like, both of those are employees, but one gets paid far more than the other. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And of course, capitalism loves free to low wage labor. So if they can steer you in the direction of prison, then they got you right where they want you.
They think that once you mess up once, that you have to pay that debt back to the
Mhm.
system for the rest of your life.
Facts. And they start to treat you like you're disposable. And then we end up operating in the system. And Angela Davis broke this down so beautifully, which is, she called it exclusion culture, right? Where, like, from the first time we step foot into school, we're taught that if you mess up, you deserve to be excluded,
Mm.
and that you're not redeemable, and that, like, that mess up affects the entire rest of your life.
They say once you commit a crime, you can't go to college, you can't get
Mhm.
anything done in life.
Can't get a job. Um, in most states you can't vote. You're pretty much looked at as a second class citizen,
Mm-hmm.
but you're still a human being with redeemable qualities, and that's the part that they leave out. They don't want you to think that.
They still
You know what
look
I'm
at you
saying?
to create product, to make license
Exactly.
plates, to do the menial work that you're forced to
Mhm.
do in prison.
Facts, and they're not really offering you any opportunities to really redeem yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people, you know, that's all they know.
They focus on punishment and they
Yeah.
don't focus on rehabilitation.
You feel me? So through One Hood, we get to not only tell narratives that reflect this, but we also get to kind of like create our own narrative. But we also get to take these people who society feels aren't redeemable and show them, like, this life is something that you control. You know what I'm saying? And we have the resources to give you the opportunities to shape it how you want to shape it. You
Mm.
feel me? Our whole thing is liberation. We're trying to create liberation through arts, social justice, media, um, civic engagement, education, all of that.
I think it's really beautiful what you and 100 are doing, especially with when it comes to the scores and the plays and whatnot, because I don't think that playwrights and musical scores of that nature are what most people really attribute to Black culture.
Mhm.
So being able to change the narrative like that is beautiful. Because I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who put themselves in the monolithic box of what it means to be Black, that
Mhm.
what it means to be Black is just to be hood, to be a gangster, to do drugs, to they can't listen to whatever music they want to, because
Mhm.
when someone talks down to them, they're like, why are you listening to this? You're not like the others. But
They try
I,
to other you.
they
You know
try
what I'm
to other
saying?
you. Exactly. They try to say that you are not black because you're not like everyone else. And
Hmm.
I really like what One Hud's doing with allowing people to be able to express themselves however they feel fit.
Yeah, facts. Because it's like here in me, you have someone who has been teaching for 12 years, right? But I'm also someone who got kicked out of college.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? I'm also someone who used to gang bang when I was real young. I wasn't supposed to be doing that. But
mm,
when I left the crib, that's who I had to look up to, the drug dealers, the gangsters. And those are the examples of manhood that I had. So it's like I was following in their footsteps naturally, you feel me? But still, I was able to make something out of my life. So it's like, I feel like my existence shows people that like you can be all the things. You know what I'm saying? It's like one thing doesn't shape your entire identity. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can be the hood kid who's also an intellectual, who's also
mm.
creative, who is also sociable and communicative. You can be a male presenting person who also expresses their emotions and can be tender and soft and nurturing. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to be just one thing. It's like the nature of human existence is we are dynamic individuals
Mm.
with multifaceted layers of personality. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to ascribe our entire identity to just one thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna like present as just a crip everywhere I go. You know
Mm.
what I'm saying? It's like I'm more than just that. I'm more than a kid that used to gang bang. I'm more than a kid who got kicked out of college. It's like, bro, I got kicked out of college and was still teaching and then went on to teach at CMU.
That's a real brain bender
You
right
feel
there
me? Like a kid who got kicked out of college teaching at one of the most prestigious
in the
colleges.
entire country.
Yes, precisely. It's like, so dude, like I just want to be that example of like you can do anything, bro. It's like as long as you don't let your circumstances define who you are and you take the reins of defining who you are, anything is possible. You feel me?
So I ask you this. When you were talking about your past, being a gangbanger, being a crip and whatnot,
Hmm.
and now looking at where you are as a teacher and as a leader, what approach and what methodology did you take to transform yourself?
Um, my approach was always realizing that my existence is dynamic. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that like at any given moment I can change the things that I do. You know what I'm saying? What really helped me was when I left the hospital and I was in group therapy, they had this poster on the wall. And the poster was titled A Word from Destiny, right? And it was pretty much a poem. It was like, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. And watch your character because it ultimately becomes who you are.
Mm,
And when I broke that down to myself, I realized like everything starts with a thought is and if everything starts with a thought, that means I can wake up tomorrow and think a new thought. And once I think a new thought, I say new words. Once I say new words, I start new actions. And if I do those actions
you've
enough
changed
times,
everything.
you know what I'm saying? I create new habits. You feel me? So it was really about realizing that like any destructive habit that I had taken on did not define me. It defined my character for as long as that habit was my habit. But knowing that I can change that habit tomorrow was the most empowering part. You know what I'm saying? And knowing that I could change my habits then helped me to realize that other people could change their habits too. You know what I'm saying? It taught me not to judge people too harshly around the habits that they build, but keep in mind that they can always change those. You know what I'm saying? And if they don't want to change those, that's cool. But they have the power to if they wanted to, if they truly wanted to. You know what I'm saying? And like people are gonna act in the ways that you treat them. You know what I'm saying? If I treat you like I believe that you ain't and like you're gonna treat me the same way because you're gonna be like,
Mm-hmm.
ah, here comes trouble. He think I ain't and by default I think he ain't and now our relationship is filled with tension that and it takes someone to change that cycle. You know You know what I'm saying? If I treat you like you're capable of whatever you put your mind to, you're going to carry yourself different. And then we're going to relate in different ways, and we're going to interact in more empowering ways. You feel me?
Hmm. I think that something that we've seen as a theme in this show is that all it takes is one person to change the trajectory of somebody's life. Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's somebody who believes in you or someone who just takes the time to get to know you, it can really just change the way you're going, you know?
Mm-hmm. And that's facts. And that's something that I realize as an educator is that, like, when I'm in a classroom, whether it be kids, adults, college students, whoever I'm talking to, my relationship with them can shape so much,
Mm,
especially when they're kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I step into a classroom, I'm up against so many odds because they've already been taught so many things about themselves in the world. So it's like I'm not there to change the world for them, but rather I'm there to provide a safe space.
mhm,
Because when you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? One of the first steps on the hierarchy is safety. You can't think about anything else if you don't feel safe. You know what I'm saying? So if I can create a safe environment for people to exist authentically as they are, then it's like within that space, people have the space to think about more than survival. You know what I'm saying? They have the space to think about things like, who am I? How do I feel? How do I want to feel? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, of course, just being in my classroom isn't enough to help them to self actualize. But if I
it's the
create a
first
safe,
step.
yeah, it's the first step. And all they need is that first step in the right direction. You know what I'm saying?
Something about society as a whole is that I find that a lot of people want to act like their lives are perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, on social media, when we're talking to friends, all of these things, we just show our best self forward and
Mm-hmm.
we don't talk about all the failures and all the things that didn't go our way that
Mm-hmm.
shaped us to become the people who we are to
Yeah.
get to where we are. So I want to ask you the question, what role did failure serve in your life in making you who you are today?
Man, Will Smith is one of the biggest influences when it comes to my relationship with failure. Because I watched a video where he said, fail first, fail forward. And he changed, because I used to be afraid of failure.
Mm,
I was so afraid of failure that sometimes it would stop me from trying. And when I watched that video, I realized, like, oh, I have to change the way I think of failure, right? I have to change the way I interact with failure. Failure isn't the end of the road, just like how when you go to prison, that's not the end of the road. When you end up in tough situations, that's not the end of your road. If you go broke or if you go homeless or if you hit rock bottom, that's not the end. That could be a stepping stone towards a new beginning. You know what I'm saying? And one thing I had to realize is that there's wisdom in failure. You feel me? Sometimes you have to be okay with being a novice, with trying and not being good at what you're trying to do, because through that failure you see the ways in which you can improve.
mm,
And it won't be until you fail first that like, through failing first, you see the ways in which you need to adjust your game plan in order to reach the goals that you have. You know what I'm saying? And to your point about perfection, I just wanted to say something to the viewers. I just want y'all to know perfection is a characteristic of white supremacy culture. And it's a characteristic that makes us think that we have to be these perfect human beings in order to be worthy of love, in order to be worthy of success. But when you really truly think about it, we don't know what perfection is. It's a made up construct that none of us truly understand. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're all chasing this false sense of perfection that we don't even know how to define. So how can we even know that it truly exists? What
mm,
is perfection? You know what I'm saying? When I think about perfection, I think of the fact that, like, I was born with a body perfectly designed to handle any circumstance that I find myself in. You know what I'm saying? It's not the goal to be perfect. It's the goal to realize that I was already made perfect for the life that I live individually. You know what I'm saying? I can't look at someone else's life and be like, oh man, like my life should be more like theirs, because I'm not them. They can't be me like I can be me, and I can't be them like they can be them. I was born to be an individual. You were born to be an individual. And perfection is a made up construct. So stop trying to be perfect and just be you.
Preach, man,
You
preach.
know what I'm saying?
Now, I think that something that's very tightly associated with failure is rejection. And you
Yes.
were telling me about how rejection was one of the things that kickstarted your current career.
Hmm.
So, you want to tell us more about that, man?
Man, so this was a beautiful segue because I have an album by the name of Hen, Story of an American
Now,
Reject.
what is
Hen is a French word, right? So the girl that I wrote the first half of the album about, when I was writing these songs, she was in Rennes, France,
Mm.
spelled Renne. And then she put me deep to the fact that if you change the spelling of the word, it means queen. So Reine, Reine, means queen. And I'm like, oh,
Mm.
that's kind of genius. I could use that. So I titled it Reine, Story of an American Reject, because I had written these 5 songs, and by the time that me and the girl actually got to go on dates, we went on a couple of dates, but then like at some point we realized it wasn't working
Well,
out.
yeah,
There wasn't really any longevity in what we were trying to build.
we all been there.
Yeah, and like it wasn't really a rejection as much as it was like a mutual understanding of like, yeah, this isn't going to work. But I had 5 songs. And I'm
Can't
like,
just throw
what
them
I'm,
out.
you know what I'm saying? I'm like, what I'm finna do with these 5 songs? So the way I conceptualized the album is I was like, all right, I'm thinking about all of the rappers who talk about the girls that they do get. And I'm like, how many rappers talk about the girls they don't get?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I was like, I can probably name 10 people on my fingers who have girls that they did not get, especially if they're single. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, this is going to be a story that can reach so many people, because I think 100% of people have dealt with rejection in their lives in some way, shape, or form. And to talk about it in music, I think is crucial, because it's like, with music, we shape culture. We as Black people, you know what I'm saying? We shape culture through art, through music, through just being, like fashion, style, just existing the way that we exist. So I'm like, we're living in a culture where people think that they have to succeed every time they set out to do something. But it's like, what if I reminded them that rejection is okay?
Mm.
That it's a natural process that we all go through, and it's
That's like
something.
fighting against the perfectionist society that we're
Yeah,
in.
you feel me? And I started to think like, rather than be afraid of rejection, we could actually use rejection as a stepping stone, as a superpower almost, right? So off of the album, I ended up creating merch where I put reject in a box on a shirt. And my ideology behind it was to wear reject like an S on your
Be
chest.
proud of it.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, yes, I have been rejected, but I can also use rejection as a tool. And it turned into this ideology of reject what no longer brings you joy. Because I started to learn through this book by Cindy Dale called The Complete Book of Chakra Healing, that joy is an energy point that requires that we choose it. A lot of people think that we have to deserve joy, that we have to, that like happiness comes from an external source, but it's like, nah, happiness comes from within. It comes from consciously choosing it. So rejection as a tool can be used to reject the things that don't bring you joy, so that you have the space to consciously choose joy every single day.
I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
Now, last thing before we hit our artist spotlight and intermission,
Mm-hmm.
I remember one of the words or one of the titles that I used to introduce you
Mm-hmm.
was Emmy Award
You
winner.
feel me?
Now, you were telling me about how that almost didn't happen
Yeah,
and
it
how it was
happened
an
by accident.
accident.
Yeah, facts. It's like I accidentally won an Emmy. You know what I'm saying?
Walk us through that.
All right, so boom. It's 2020, and we had just seen the news of the insidious murder of George Floyd, and cities across the nation were starting to organize protests, right? And one of my friends who was part of organizing the first protest here in Pittsburgh had hit me up, and she was like, yo, we're organizing this protest and we need a poet and we would love if you recited a poem. And I was like, cool, I could do it. But I said yes before I even had a poem ready. So after we got off the phone, I started writing the poem. But at first I didn't know what to write about. So I had remembered a conversation I had with my best friend's mom, who's also like someone I consider my second mom. We were on our way to Philly and we were talking about her relationship with her black mentees. And I remember during the conversation, I had said something like, don't clip our tails. And I was like, essentially like, don't tell us how to assimilate in white spaces that weren't built for us to exist in from the jump. Instead, tell the people in control of those white spaces to make more space for us to exist as we are.
We should be proud of our tails.
You feel me? It's like, don't clip it. Like, show up as your full authentic self. And if that space doesn't make space for you to show up as your full
You
authentic
make space
self,
for it.
yes, leave that space or break the walls down. Do what you gotta do, but don't clip your own tails. But also, as an ally, don't clip our tails. So I write the poem and I recite it at the protest. And actually, fun fact, my brother was there when I recited the poem for the very first time. Right next to me. In the video, you'll see him standing right next to me with his fist up and saying, my bad, I forgot. I cussed
all
again.
good. I got you.
But so then my guy Ryan Lowe hits me up on Instagram after I post a video and it gets shared a couple of times. He's like, yo, I really like that poem. I would like if we did a video to it. And like, you know, this was something kind of new to me because I'm used to doing music videos, but I've never done like a poetry video. And he sent me a couple of links to his older videos. And I'm like, these are pretty solid. These are dope. So I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. Let's do it.
Why
you know
not?
what I'm saying? Yeah, facts. So we do the video and it releases November of 2020. Then April of 2021, I get a call from Ryan and he's like, yeah. So he works for a publication called Public Source, right? He's like, yeah. So Public Source wants to nominate the video for Emmy nomination. I'm like, oh snap.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So he's like, all we need is your information. So I send him my information and, you know, then we wait. Then August of 2021 comes around. I just got back from DC. One Hood went on the staff retreat in DC and Ryan calls me and he's like, yo, we're nominated. And he sends me the list so I could go see the nominations. And I see my name in there. And I'm like, yo, I'm Emmy nominated for the rest of my life.
I'm that guy.
You know what I'm saying? And then September rolls around. They air the Emmys and out of the envelope comes my name. And then I won the Emmy. You know what I'm saying? And it was just serendipitous. You feel me? But it wasn't completely serendipitous. It was like, well, actually, no, it was completely serendipitous because before all of that, right? In 2020, I remember I made a vision board, and on the vision board, I put a Grammy because I was like, I want accolades for my art.
Everyone will win a Grammy.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a musician. So I'm thinking like Grammy, that's my accolade. That's the one for me, right? But the universe saw that and was like, you know what? I'll do you one better. Here's an Emmy. So now when I do get a Grammy, I got the E, the G, and then all I'll need is the O and the T. And then I'll be EGOT status out here. You know what I'm saying?
You're funny, man. But that was quite a ride. I'm not gonna lie. But we're gonna get into our artist spotlight for this week, which is
Treble
the great
NLS.
Treble NLS. We're gonna be playing his song "Signs" from his album.
Ren. Yes.
I'm gonna try and get that down afterwards, bro. But I'm gonna get this playing.
Let's get it. Yeah. This is fate.
I'ma put this flower in the face. I'ma show her I got what it takes. I'ma have to get a little taste. Well, alright now, this is fate. I'ma need at least a couple dates. Soon as she can meet me in the States. She the brightest diamond in the case. Turn your lights down.
What's behind your eyes? Let's explore your mind. What's beyond your skies? Take me for a ride. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, I think that's how it shine. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, I think that's how it shine. What's behind your eyes? Let's explore your mind. What's beyond your skies? Take me for a ride. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, I think that's how it shine. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, I think that's how it shine.
Sorry if I'm off on a tangent, but I need your sign, cosign. But no lie, it just feels more like I'm seeing your eyes through REM closed eyes, dreaming.
So that was this week's Artist Spotlight, Signs by Treble NLS. You can find his music everywhere, YouTube, Spotify. We'll have everything linked in the description. But now let's get into our social issue of this week. Let's talk about emotional intelligence. Now, one quote that you gave me is that people don't realize that emotions are our body's wisdom. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, I can. So this is something that I had to realize along my healing journey because one of the biggest setbacks for me was I didn't grow up in a household that gave me the space to feel my emotions safely. So I didn't really get to get in tune with them and really like figure out what it is they were trying to tell me. It wasn't until I was in CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, where they first introduced me to the concept that like your emotions are messengers and each emotion comes with a different message it's trying to tell you. And in order to really like integrate that messaging, you first have to create the space to feel it, right? So I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then also that's a theme that came up when I was doing my chakra healing too, because the root chakra is about safety, security, being in your body, and did I say the root? Yeah, I said the
root chakra.
And the sacral chakra has to do with your emotions, your feelings, and how you express not only your feelings but yourself, right? But in order for the sacral chakra to do what it does in a healthy manner, you have to feel your feelings without guilt, and you have to see your feelings as a natural part of your human process versus something to be guilty of. And one of the issues I had with my feelings is I thought they were bad because anytime I tried to express them, I got like negative responses.
Backlash.
Yeah. And I also had to get familiar with a concept called nonviolent communication, which is essentially this process of naming an observation, so like stating the facts, then naming how the facts made you feel, and then following that with a need, and then following that need with a request, right? It's a whole process. But
so walk me through an example.
So an example, all right, say you were really handsy, right? Like handsy in the sense of like you moved them a lot and you knocked over my cup.
I'm not going to do that.
Right? But that's just an example. The way I would express that through nonviolent communication would be, yo, I noticed that like you knocked over my cup, stating the facts, right? Or I noticed that like to make it less about you, it's like I noticed that my cup has been knocked over. That made me feel a little bit angry. And what I need is to know that you will consider me when we're inhabiting the same space. So could you please watch what you're doing with your hands?
I got you. I got
You know
you.
what I'm
I
saying?
got you.
And then the way you will respond is the same process. You would be like, I noticed that the cup being knocked over made you feel upset. That makes me feel And then you'd state however it makes you feel, and then you'd say, well, my need is to know that you don't make me wrong for a mistake that I made. And then you'd follow that with like, you'd either say I can, yes or no to the request. Like, yes, I can watch what I do with my hands, or no, it's kind of difficult for me to know what I'm doing with my
And
hands.
here's
So
why.
instead, could we maybe move your cup somewhere else? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's really about like building that relationship where we're acknowledging each other's feelings, acknowledging each other's needs, and being honest about how we can meet those needs, right? And trying to meet those needs collaboratively if we can and create the space for it. But in order for us to create that space between ourselves, we have to create that space for ourselves. So first, I have to create the space to feel my feelings safely. I can't attack myself for feeling upset about that. I can't be like, oh, you shouldn't be mad about that. Like, it's not even that big of a deal.
It's your cup.
Exactly. It's like whatever feeling I'm feeling in that moment is valid. And I have to validate that for myself first. So that when I go to express it to you, I'm not expressing it with hints of guilt and shame, because that will translate in the conversation that we have. And instead of bringing it up non-violently, I'll bring it up defensively because I think that the feeling is bad already. So I'm going to treat the feeling like it's bad. But then I'll either project that feeling of feeling bad onto you, like, yo, like you knocked over my cup, you dickhead. Or or it could just it'll escalate to something it doesn't have to become. You know what I'm saying? So emotional intelligence kind of helps me to take responsibility of how I show up in the world by being aware of my emotions first and foremost, but also being aware of how my emotions contribute to how I interact with people. You know what I'm saying? And like taking a step back, not reacting off of my emotions, but rather responding to the emotion, right? If I'm angry, I'm gonna take a step. They call it take a beat. I'm gonna take a beat and just like analyze the feeling. Like, if I'm angry, so I learned that anger is an emotion, it's a secondary emotion that protects your sadness. So whenever anger comes up, it's like essentially your body feels like, yo, I'm sad, but I don't feel safe enough to express or exist in that sadness. So I'm going to use anger to protect myself as I'm feeling the sadness, right? So if anger comes up, then I can tell myself, or I can ask myself, what am I trying to protect? And then by asking myself that question, I could be like, okay, I'm sad because I really like that tea. And I was hoping that I'd have more to drink, but now it's all over the floor. And that makes me feel sad. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm grieving the tea that I thought I would have when this interview was over.
So
you know what I'm saying?
while we're still on this tea example, so I knocked over your cup of tea, and now I'm feeling guilt from knocking over your tea. How do I process that emotion?
So first, you got to create the space for it, right? Because guilt can lead to shame if you're not careful. Because guilt is the feeling of I did something bad. And then shame is the feeling of I am bad. And a lot of times growing up, we were made to think that we were bad for doing something bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll have parents who call their kids bad because they did something that they didn't really like. And they don't realize that the impact that that has on the kid is now they grow up thinking that they're a bad person whenever they make mistakes. You know what I'm saying? They can't just feel guilt. And now it's guilt paired with shame. You feel me? So you would have to take a beat to process that guilt and then like express remorse. Hey, I know that I knocked over your cup. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I would just hope that you can forgive me. And like, then you can like atone, like ask, like, how can I make this better? Because as human beings, like I mentioned before, we are redeemable in the fact that we can change our actions by changing our thoughts and our words. You know what I'm saying? So by asking like, how can I make this right, is you acknowledging in yourself that you're redeemable and creating the space for me to treat you as such. You know what I'm saying? And then me, I'm someone who actually does see you as redeemable. I could be like, maybe you can buy me another tea. Tea on you. You know what I'm saying?
Tea on me.
Yeah, facts.
We can hit up Bantha Tea Bar. How about that?
Facts. So it's all about like taking that space to acknowledge the feelings that you're feeling and knowing for yourself that whatever feeling you're feeling in the moment is okay to feel and it is valid and you're not bad for feeling it and the feeling itself isn't bad but rather it's trying to tell you something. You know what I'm saying? Like your guilt would be telling you like, oh, I care about the impact that I had on this person and I feel sorrow because of it and I'd like to express that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And me being the emotionally intelligent person I am, when I see the guilt that you feel, I'm able to register that as, oh, he cares.
The intention wasn't bad.
Yes, indeed. And that care can kind of soften the blow. And now I can just be like, it's okay. I'm just glad that you care. You know what I'm saying? It's a mistake that we can grow from. You feel me?
That example of knocking the tea over went very far.
Yes.
We had basically every single emotion, everything that's in the mix.
Yes, indeed. Our emotions are messengers, but also like our emotions are tools, right? So to go back to the vision board that I made, I read a book called The Secret. If you haven't read it, I suggest that you read it. It is, man. And in The Secret, it was essentially saying that like our emotional state affects how we act and how we behave, right? Because your emotional state, if you're not careful with it, can contribute to your beliefs. And in behavioral psychology, they say that your behavior is directly tied to what you believe in that moment, right? So if I have a goal, but I believe myself to be incapable of achieving that goal, then I'm going to behave as such. I'm going to behave like I'm not capable of achieving that
can't
goal.
do it.
You know what I'm saying? And then I'm going to feel unworthy. I'm going to feel sorrow. I'm going to feel pity for myself. And that's going to keep me stagnant because those emotions are heavy and they don't prompt you to move towards a goal. They prompt you to move back. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm looking at a goal like my vision board, when I put the Grammy on there, if I wake up every day and I'm seeing that and I'm imagining it as though I already have it, now my belief system is that I have it. It's mine. I have secured it and I'm able to secure it. So now I'm going to behave as such. I'm going to move like I'm able to accomplish those things that I set out to accomplish. And in that sense, the emotion that I'm feeling from believing myself to be capable of achieving that goal is actually moving me towards that goal because emotion is energy in motion. So anytime you feel a feeling, that feeling creates energy and that energy puts you in motion. You feel me? It either puts you in motion forward or puts you in motion backwards. You know what I'm saying? But it's all about being aware of how our emotions affect the way that we think and affect the way that we act. You know what I'm saying?
I really appreciate you taking the time to teach us how to slow things down and process things better. Because I think that if everybody takes this lesson about emotional intelligence and applies it, I think we'll have a better world overall. And I really appreciate that.
Of course. I appreciate you making a space for this conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Now, my question for you is there anything else you need to get out there before we sign off for this episode? It's a loaded question.
It is. I just want you to know that you are beautiful. And I say be beautiful because there's a certain beauty in your authenticity that the world needs. You know what I'm saying? I show up as my full authentic self because I know any space that I find myself in, they don't have my perspective because no one in that room has seen the things that I've seen and no one in that room can speak from the places that I've been. And that goes for you too. And for you too. You know what I'm saying? It's like any space that you find yourself in, don't be afraid to be your full authentic self because the world needs your perspective because you're going to help pave the way for people like yourself or people who are similar to you to exist in spaces that they wouldn't originally find themselves in. And you help to create space for not only yourself by being authentic, but you help to create space for others to show up as their authentic selves. And once we're able to all show up authentically, then we can start to think about what harmony looks like and how we can tap into that energy together. You know what I'm saying? So how we show up in this space determines how others show up and determines what we and others believe about the world that we exist in. So the last note I'm gonna leave you on is a word from John O'Donohue, which is, we are all creative because whether you like it or not, we all play a role in building this world as we see it.
That's some real stuff, man.
You know what I'm
Because we are
saying?
all unique. We all bring something to the table.
You feel me? Never lose sight. The possibilities are endless.
I see that, man.
Feel me?
No, that's a great way to leave things off.
Mhm.
Now, before we hop out of here, our friends at the School of Social Work,
Let's go.
they made you a little goodie bag.
I appreciate
They know
that.
about you, the creative. So
Okay, and
there's
it's
a notebook
pick
in
color.
there. There's a notebook
you
in
want me
there.
to open it right now?
You can open it right now. You can
Oh,
open
we're
it
going to
later.
do an unveiling. Hold on. What do we have?
They got you a nice notebook.
We got a
Keep your
notebook.
creative juices flowing.
I appreciate that. We also have a pen. Bro, you can never have enough pens. Like, from a writer, keep these. I be stealing them sometimes. But I'm glad I didn't have to steal this one. I got a ball with
It's a
the
nice
world
stress
on it.
ball.
Yes.
It's that nonviolence.
Now when I'm mad, I could just, you feel me? And it's like memory foam. It like takes a little bit of time.
It's a nice stress ball.
Yeah, it forces you to slow down. You can't just like, you have to wait for it. That's hard. I like that. I have a fidget spinner.
That's a throwback 2020 right there.
Facts. And I have like ADHD TVs playing constantly in my mind at the same time. So this helps. I need to fidget a little bit. And last but not least, they said, bro, you're too down to earth. We got to take you to the Milky Way.
Please.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
I like
funny
it.
with it. You too funny.
Appreciate that.
But you can thank Dr. Toya Jones for that. She just started her own podcast called Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy, where she talks a lot about emotional intelligence and other social work things. So I definitely say tune in when you got a chance.
Yeah, I think I know Dr. Toya too, the homie right there. You know
She's definitely the homie.
Facts.
She's everyone's homie.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So we signing off. It's Treble NLS. Never lose sight. We out here.
Have a great day, everybody.
Mm-hmm.